Welcome to part 25 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger, my story about surviving an attempted unaliving and the cover-up and corruption that ensued. Famous A-list celebrities, politicians, and their offspring are involved. Now, I'm just going to really quick just recap what I said in the previous part I posted of my series, part 24, in the very last minute, just in case anybody missed it. But at the end of the hearing downtown in Judge Mader's courtroom for the pew pew white powder probation violation of the men who attacked me, Maurice. At the very end, me, my brother, and my friends, we all went outside the courtroom. We were so upset that the Judge Mader, rewarded Maurice Driz for violating probation. She was like, yes, we're going to remove your travel restrictions. Yes, we're going to remove your AA. Anything you need, honey. So we're like so upset. I've got tears in my eyes. And we wait for Officer Don Contreras, the investigating officer who led the raid and who testified in this hearing. So we wait for her outside and we go up to her, all of us. She says what she says in front of all of us. And I was like, why didn't you arrest Shawn Driz? That was his home on probation. That's his home address. In fact, it's in the transcripts that his father and uncle pointed out, that's Shawn's bedroom. Yes, that's where the duffel bag full of illegal green plants is, the guy on probation or felony probation. Yes, that's his room. Judge Mader even said it out loud in one of the other hearings that he was in possession of this. Why didn't you arrest him? Ms. Contreras said to us, and she was angry. She was angry. She was like, look, she's like, I came down here. I made sure that I showed up to testify because I was really angry about what's been going on behind the scenes in this case. She goes, we would have arrested him because it doesn't matter if he's home or not during a felony probation raid. If we find a pew-pew and white powder and stuff in his room, he's on the hook for all of that. She goes, when we went to go arrest him or go wait for him to arrest him, whatever, to arrest him after they arrested the twins, she said, Shawn Driz must know somebody very powerful because somebody, don't say the name, somebody called her superior, who then told Don Contreras, investigating officer, head of the high-risk GPS unit LA probation team, told her, stand down. You do not arrest Shawn Driz. And if you do arrest him, you're going to have to do it at his new address, which was made after the raid. And his new address is at his girlfriend's house in Brentwood. And you're not going to do a search there. So stand down. She said this in front of all of us. Okay, so that was the end of my part 24. Now, part 25 that we're finally getting into, whatever. So that happened, okay? We're going to get back to that. After all this happened, I was just beside myself. I was like, wow, we caught them, evidence, arrests, white powder, stolen pew-pew, loaded, chambered, and they all went to court and then got all of their travel requirements loosened and their AA classes removed. Like, what? So at this point, I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to use my card. 2.5 years ago, right after the incident, the assault happened, the executive producer of TMZ, Charles Latibeaudiere, texted me. He got my phone number from somebody, texted me and was like, thank you so much for what you did for our guy. When you feel better and you're healed, Harvey Levin and I would love to take you to lunch to say thank you. And I was like, that is so nice of you. Wow. But I never took him up on the offer. But I figured at this point, you know what? I'm going to ask for help. So I had Charles's number. So I texted him and I said, hey, we need to meet up. We need to talk about this. There's something really corrupt happening and I need you guys to TMZ it, I need you guys to put all the scandal out there because it's scandal. So Charles was like, okay, how about we meet for dinner? Let's meet at this little restaurant in Brentwood called, I think, Toscana, I think it's called. It's on San Vicente. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to bring a friend, witness, with me. He's like, great. We meet him there. So this is like end of January of 2018, about a week before the final hearing for this whole probation violation. So we get to Toscana, me, my friend, and Charles. We're eating pizza, we're having apps, we're having a couple drinks, we're talking for like over 2 hours. And I tell him everything that's been going on, and he's just like, he's in shock. He's doing his best impression of shocked and like, oh, that's terrible. And at this time, I have no idea about any corruption, so I'm totally like thinking, oh, he's gonna save us, During that dinner, Charles told me and my friend that Jacob Castellan, the TMZ paparazzi who I went to save, he told us that his injuries were so severe and both physically, mentally, and emotionally, that he took like 3-4 months off of work, like could not go back. He also said that Jacob Castellan was so shook up by the incident that he considered not going back out into the field at all as a paparazzi I'm not going to call him a journalist or a reporter because he's just, but he told us that's how serious it was. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy, Then Charles said, well, look, we can't cover your story right now because we're just so busy with Trump stuff right now. It's like early 2018. He's like, there's just so much Trump stuff and our whole team is just busy, busy, busy. And I totally fell for it and was like, okay, that doesn't make sense, but I'm going to make it make sense because I need to believe you. So Charles goes, okay, but how about this? He goes, I know somebody really well over at KTLA, a much smaller, tiny local news station, not TMZ, KTLA. And he says, I can pull a favor over there. This reporter's name is Beth McDade. I'm going to post her picture on the next part when I get into this. But he goes, Beth McDade, I'll call her, give her your number, vice versa. You guys can get in touch, and she will cover this next secret hearing down at the airport court next week for you. And I was like, oh, my God, thank you. Like, he's going to make this happen. And Charles goes, and if she doesn't do it for some reason, then we will TMZ will cover this story big. And I was like, that's amazing. Okay. So I left Toscana with my friend. I remember we walk out and I ended up collapsing in the street. Like I was just so overwhelmed. Just feeling like I was going to be safe. I was going to be protected because I had been intimidated and harassed and stalked by somebody for the previous couple of years. And I just felt like if TMZ covered this, there was my safety net. They won't mess with me anymore because the world's going to be watching. And I remember I was collapsed on the ground and my friend was lifting me up and put me on a bench or something like that or a little wall and until I could breathe again. And then we see Charles drive by in his little Porsche. I'm like, thank you. And then the very next day, I think it was, I got in touch with Miss Beth McDade of KTLA. And she was like, yeah, me and my videographer, we're going to support you. We're going to be at that hearing. It starts at 8:30 a.m. on the 5th. We'll be there at 7:45, 7:30, ready to go. We're going to, have the big camera. We're going to have a microphone in the Driz's face. Why did you do this? Why are these hearings illegal and you're not telling the victims about them, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's amazing. So she was doing the whole women got to support women, sister. And I was like, yes, amazing. That's not what happened. And I'll get into that. I don't have time in this part to tell that whole story, but I'm going to get into that in the next part when I cover what happens in that hearing and then what happened immediately after the hearing. So thanks for nothing, TMZ. Thank you, everybody else, though, for having better critical thinking skills than anybody at TMZ and working in the justice system. You're amazing. You're hired. Bye.